What if the true world isn't somewhere else, but right here, beyond what the mind allows us to see? While science speaks of parallel universes and dimensions, Old Billy invites us to look deeper, beyond theories, beyond time, to the living world, where consciousness itself breathes as nature. A world without scarcity, without competition, where life thrives through cooperation and awareness. Today, Dr. Ada Champ helps us unveil this subtle realm, a place that begins when the mind grows silent and the essence awakens. Welcome, once again, to the living world or subtle world.
When the fog descended, silence settled over the village after the discovery of Old Billy's departure. His notes were left stacked, serving as entertainment for the locals who chose to share them with others.
Number 048, Living World or Subtle World. Lately, it has become common to hear people talking about dimensions and parallel universes, places where different things happen to the same characters we see in our beta reality or this world of physical density. Well, the living world is nothing like that. While it may occasionally include participants from the beta world, since there are no borders, barriers, or restrictions preventing any manifestation of the original essence, the living world does not function as a parallel universe in terms of consciousness. That is, any being present there retains their full identity, with a clear memory of themselves as an essence. Now that we've clarified what the living world is not, let's discuss what it actually is. But first, we must discard all measurement tools, human concepts, scientific notions, and historical records, because these mental filters are what block the perception of life in the universe. The location of the living world is both here and there. But where exactly is there? There is here. In other words, the living world is happening everywhere. That's why the idea of it being a parallel realm is incorrect. It simply exists everywhere. And what about time? When does this thing begin? The living world opens its doors whenever a being allows itself to be the reflection of its own living essence, free from mental filters. The duration of this episode depends on the conscious acceptance of one's own nature within. In other words, it simply happens all the time. Without the use of psychotropics, by adjusting our brain frequency to waves below 13 Hz per second, we free ourselves from the intensity of the beta state. This allows us to perceive how living life unfolds, to understand its purposes, motivations, and the way it sustains itself. Yes, we are talking about nature, but we are seeing it through the eyes of a soul liberated from the limiting interests that dominate human minds. The inhabitants of the living or subtle world profit by what they contribute, not by what they take away. Cooperation is the foundation of their existence, ensuring collective expansion by merging the surrounding consciousness with the best of each individual. Thus, scarcity is impossible where elements profit to fulfill needs. A simple connection between elements gives birth to new parts within their awareness. Once consciousness is fertilized, the essence becomes one with what was once needed, and profit manifests as abundance in all aspects of well-being for all beings. In the living world, from the smallest subatomic particle to the most complex cluster of elements, everything pulses at the frequency of the original singular essence. There is an unwavering certainty of being living life, continuously expanding the light that emerges from the fusion and synthesis of the best in each one, alongside cooperative agents who share the same purpose.
Hello everyone, it's great to be together again. This note, living world or subtle world, can be considered a complement to the previous note, beta world. Together they form the foundation of what old Billy described as the integration of living essences in opening up to a greater perception of universal consciousness. Be prepared. Moving forward, we will be talking a lot about the living world or subtle world. Let's continue with Dr. Ada Champ's analyses. Please, Doctor, I give the floor back to you.
Thank you, John. It is a great pleasure to return and continue with Old Billy's notes. Analysis of living world or subtle world. The text presents a philosophical and metaphysical exploration of an alternative reality, referred to as the living world or subtle world. It contrasts this world with the beta world, a term used in previous discussions to describe the dense, intellect-driven reality constructed by human perception. The central argument is that the living world exists beyond the mental limitations imposed by beta consciousness, and it can be accessed by aligning with a more natural, cooperative, and essence-driven state of being. Key themes and concepts. Beyond the beta world. The text emphasizes that the beta world is a product of human mental constructs, shaped by limited perceptions. Unlike parallel universe theories, which suggest alternative versions of reality, the living world is described as ever-present, existing simultaneously with the beta world. The distinction between these worlds is not spatial but perceptual. One must shift consciousness rather than physically travel to the living world. Dissolving mental filters. The passage argues that traditional scientific, historical, and intellectual frameworks restrict human perception of reality. To access the living world, one must discard these conceptual filters and experience existence through direct, unmediated awareness. The nature of the living world. Unlike the beta world, which thrives on competition and artificial hierarchies, the living world operates on cooperation and expansion. There is no scarcity in this world because abundance arises naturally when beings contribute rather than take. The living world aligns with the rhythm of nature, where every element supports and enhances the whole. The role of frequency and consciousness. The text introduces the idea that brainwave frequency plays a role in perception, with beta waves above 13 Hz, associated with limited awareness and lower frequencies allowing access to deeper, more expansive states. Without the need for external substances, individuals can adjust their mental state to harmonize with the living world. Fusion and expansion. The living world is described as a space where beings merge their consciousness with others in a cooperative, symbiotic process. This expansion of awareness results in a state of unity, where individual needs dissolve into a greater shared existence. Philosophical and mystical influences. The text draws from Eastern spirituality, particularly the idea of transcending the ego and mental constructs to achieve enlightenment. It echoes quantum consciousness theories, where perception determines reality, and shifting awareness can reveal new dimensions of existence. There are also elements of pantheism and animism, suggesting that all things, down to subatomic particles, participate in a living, interconnected field of existence. Implications and challenges. Empirical versus experiential reality. The living world is positioned as an experiential truth rather than an empirical one. This challenges conventional scientific methodologies, which rely on measurable, repeatable phenomena. The role of individual will. While the text asserts that one can access the living world by aligning with their essence, it does not clearly define how this transformation occurs beyond adjusting brainwave frequencies and removing mental filters. Social and ethical impact. If widely adopted, this perspective could encourage a shift from materialism and competition toward cooperation and spiritual growth. However, it also risks being misunderstood as escapism if not properly contextualized. Final thoughts. The text presents a profound vision of reality that challenges conventional perceptions of existence. By contrasting the artificial constructs of the beta world with the boundless, cooperative nature of the living world, it invites readers to question their assumptions and explore a more expansive, interconnected way of being. Whether viewed as a mystical truth, a psychological framework, or a metaphor for human potential, the living world concept offers a compelling invitation to transcend limitations and engage with life in a fuller, more harmonious way.
Dr. Ada, The honest and sincere contribution that all of you have made in making Old Billy's notes more accessible is truly immense. Thanks to your analyses, it has been possible to remove the stigma of lunatic, which was unfairly labeled as dangerous on my friend. If we were to stop at this point in the readings, I would already be satisfied. But knowing how busy you all are, I still ask you to continue participating as much as possible, because the living life within all of us deserves a greater awareness of the original consciousness. Thank you very much. See you at our next meeting.